Set fire to the woods behind us. Something happened.
Pleasant for others, but pleasant for you. Right? Oh, man. All right. Now, hey, I lost it now. Where are you? Oh, there you are. All right. So today we're going to look at, we'll continue with Romans chapter 11. I think Romans 11 is, I really love Romans 11. Romans 10, Romans 11. Okay, Romans 9, 10, and 11. I'm going back and back and back and back and back. You say it.
I like the Romans chapter 8.
Best. Romans 8, 9, 10, 11. It's so beautiful. And I think primarily because this is where you really understand God's grace for us. Because when you're talking about the grace of God, and especially even Romans 8, the whole idea that when God said, I was found by those who were not looking for me. For me personally, I was not looking for God when God said, Gabriel, come here. He's the one who snatched me out of the darkness. And it is why, I think one of the reasons why I really understand and even appreciate grace so much is because of that concept of, when I was lost, or even when I was so against God and not looking for God, that God said, you, come here. It's like, this past week I was busy, I went to Busan Station, and you should find so many homeless people there. So many homeless people there. And I was thinking, for me, I was probably like, spiritually, I was like that. Lost, no home, ragged and dirty and everything else. And God said, you, come here. Took me, washed me clean, gave me new clothes, and said, guess what? From now on, you're my son. Just like that. Yeah, like, what did I do to deserve it? And the answer is, absolutely nothing. That's what grace is about. So this is, and again, this message of grace is what is there in Romans. And actually it's throughout the Bible. It's throughout the Bible. But I think the case for it, in the book of Romans really does a wonderful job in explaining it. And so we're going to continue Romans chapter 11, verse 25 to verse 36. It says, I do not want you to be ignorant of this mystery, brothers and sisters, so that you may not be conceited. Israel has experienced a hardening in part until the full number of the Gentiles has come in. And in this way, all Israel will be saved. And it is written, the deliverer will come from Zion. He will turn godlessness away from Jacob. And this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. As far as the gospel is concerned, they are enemies for your sake. But as far as election is concerned, they are loved on account of the patriarchs. For God's gifts and His call is irrevocable. Just as you who were at one time disobedient to God have now received mercy as a result of their disobedience, so that they too have now become disobedient, in order that they too may now receive mercy as a result of God's mercy to you. For God has bound everyone over to disobedience, so that He may have mercy on them all. Oh, the depth of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of God! How unsearchable His judgment and His paths beyond tracing out! Who has known the mind of God? Or who has been Counselor. Who has ever given to God that God should repay him? For from him and through him and for him are all things. To him be the glory forever. Amen. It's so beautiful. And of course, the title is God's mercy on the Father. So here, if you read the whole of Romans 11, the main thing is this. It talks about God's grace to the Jews and Gentiles. This is what it is about. God's grace to who? The Jews and Gentiles. To bring these two into one family. To divide the walls of, the cultural walls, the walls because of, the geographical positions and languages and all of those things, the things that divide the world. Christ has come to break them down and to take all the people from different cultures and nationalities and to bring them together into one. You see? And it's something very beautiful. In South Africa is known as the Rainbow Nation. And of course, the rainbow, you have all those beautiful colors and everything else, but making one thing. So this is what we call ourselves a rainbow nation, because you have people from different languages, cultures, and races, and all of those things, and all making this beautiful rainbow. And where people appreciate each other's cultures and languages. And even when it comes to food, when you talk about South African food, it's not just one food for one location, it's something for everybody. And different cultures contribute in making different dishes that is South African. You see? So this is what we're talking about. A whole new people, a whole new race, a whole new family. The people who look differently can be brothers and sisters. That is so cool, isn't it? That is so wonderful. This message of unity in diversity. We're different, but yet we are united. Right. But of course, even last week, we saw that the Gentiles are grafted into the family by grace. When Paul gave an illustration of an olive plant and the branches, and some branches were broken off, and the branches from the wild olive plants were taken and connected to the new stem, where they will grow and change and bear fruit of the new family. You see? And also, but of course, what we're talking about is that also Paul is saying that that the Jews were left out because of unbelief. But even though now the majority are unbelievers, do not receive or accept the Messiah, but there is what we call the remnant. What is the remnant? Do you remember? What does the remnant mean?
What is left?
The thing of what is left. You see, in Greek, lepo, coming from lema, means to leave behind. And these are the people that the world leaves behind. You see, the world thinks these people are silly. But those people are what God says they are mine. Because they do not follow the world. The world's thinking is different from theirs. They're thinking about the kingdom of God. Everyone else is thinking about here on earth. You see? So that is why the world thinks they are trash, but God says yes, because they are mine. They think differently from the world. They act differently from the world. And so, for Paul, even the Jewish Christians were the remnant of Israel. The so-called, the real Israel in Israel. Like that, the real Israel in Israel. So that's how he saw them. But also Gentiles too. Because the Gentiles were also remnants. As things, for example, in Korea, when you have family, a family that is not Christian, maybe one person is a Christian. During the time in Chuseok and Seollal, Thanksgiving and New Year, when the family do jeza, and the Christian says, I'm sorry, I cannot do that.
What? You're not part of our family.
Right?
You are trash. Swaggy.
Right? The remnant. There it is. You just say, you're trash, you're swaggy. Like, yes, I'm the remnant. You say, I'm happy to be Siregi. It's cool to be Siregi. Amen?
Amen.
So next time someone says, you're trash, like, thank you. I'm happy to be trash. But that's what I call the remnant. The remnant, again, during that time, is those who accept God, who do not follow everyone else. Alright, so the question is, what happens to the Jews now? Alright, first, as Paul said, they were hardened so that they could receive inclusion by faith. This is very important because, first, what the Jews will say, we are the people of God. Why? Because they have what? The promise, because of Abraham, Genesis chapter 12. Right, the Abrahamic covenant is that. And they have what? The Mosaic law.
They receive the law.
Right, they received the law. Right, in the book of Exodus. And they have the prophets. Right, Isaiah, Jeremiah, all of them. Right, and the promised land. So all of these things will say, yeah, we are people of God because we have all of God's promise and none of the history and whatever. So to the point that to be the children of God will change from being people by faith to just people by lineage. With faith, then when lineage and history took away faith. The starting point was faith. Abraham, faith. His children, faith. Moses, faith. David, everything was faith, faith, faith. But then later that changed to simply history. They're proud of their history. That's why when they said to Jesus, we are the children of Abraham. And Jesus says, what? You see these stones? Jesus can make the children of Abraham through these stones. Meaning what? It is not about history or lineage. It's about what? Faith. So he says right now, Israel, God has hardened the Jewish people so that in time, they will realize the lineage and history are not important and move back to God, power, and faith. And those who say, we are the people of God, they do so, they will say so because of their faith in God. Their personal faith in God. Not the faith of Abraham, but their faith. So this is something very, very important. So therefore, they're not totally rejected by God. It's like thrown out. But rather, it is sort of, we can say, a time of discipline. When they will come to their senses later on. And they will realize, guess what? All these things we thought were important. The history and all of those things in the past are not important. What is important is now. Our faith now. Not a faith in history, but our faith now. So even bringing it also to Christian, but sometimes you ask people, are you Christian? And they'll say yes. But they don't care about God. They're thinking, well, my parents are Christian. Maybe my parents were going to church, praying, and all of those things. Maybe I don't pray so much. I don't care about what I do God, but I'm a Christian because I come from a Christian family. Have you heard the phrase, I was born a Christian? That phrase itself is incorrect, that I was born a Christian. But because when you are Christians, when you realize and you think, I need God. I was raised up as a Christian, as in a Christian family. My parents taught me about God and how to pray and all of those things since I was young. You see, and when I was young, I went to church. Why? Because my parents said so. If I did not, what do you think was going to happen to me? Exactly. So I went to church to save my life. You see, my daughter's like, I know that. Do you go to church to save your life, baby? Yeah, don't ask me that question, Daddy. I don't answer out loud. You see, I would have preferred to go with my friends and go out and play and do things, not to stay at home and listen to the pastor. I'm going, oh God, someone help me, please. That is so terrible. Right. But I grew up. If I did not, you see. So, but then later, I had a sense that, guess what? My faith in God changed. And then I changed, even when I was in boarding school, away from home, I went to church. Why? Because I wanted to. My parents were far away, but I went there because I wanted to, because of my faith. Not my parents' faith, but because of my faith in God. You understand? So this is very important, even for the Israelites. It's not about the faith of their ancestral parents, Abraham, and all this about should be their faith. For us Christians today should not be because of mom and dad and the history of our parents and whatever. It must be because of us. Us. Because we believe in God. Because we want to spend time with God's people. And coming to church is not a bad and boring thing. Amen. We come because we want to. Right. Remember the story? Jesus told the story of that lost son, the prodigal son. Once there was a father. He had 2 sons. And the youngest son said to the father, Father, give me my inheritance right now. You see, that story, even the whole, it's very important. You see, because it shows how bad even the mind of the young son was. First, he's the youngest. That was the youngest. Right, so he basically has no right even to ask. Give him a share. But second, the fact that he went to his father, who is alive, and said, I want my inheritance now. Means what? Father, I wish you were dead. Imagine saying that to your parents. Mom, Dad, guess what? I wish you were dead. What would happen to you? They will kill you first. Right? That's true. So here's the thing. But for him to say the youngest, and yet to go and say that to the father, that's, I mean, to the Jewish people of that day, that would have been the worst son ever. Ever. But yet, this also shows the goodness of God, the Father, who represents God the Father. And what did the Father do? Gave it to him. And of course, he went to another country, to the Gentiles. How do you know the Gentile? Because the Bible says to another country, another land. And second, it was where they had pig farming. Because afterwards, when he had no money, he went to a pig farmer. And there were no pig farmers in Israel, only in Gentile. So you have a very bad son, who youngest, no rights, but yet went to say, I want my share. Right? And not only did he say was so disrespectful, but went outside of God's people, outside of the promised land, into the land of Gentiles. And then to make things worse, when he had no money, he went to a pig farmer, and not only did he work for the pig farmer, but be among pigs, but he ate pig food. He ate all that stuff. Now imagine, I mean, that is the worst. As a Jewish person, that is the worst. Besides killing your parents, that is as low as you can go. You see, that alone is enough for the father to say, my son is dead. I do not have 2 sons. I only have 1 son. Just that. You see. Now, this story is important because also, it also points, again, to how Paul understood the Jewish people as the lost sons. Where right now they may be in a very difficult place. But where they will come to their senses and say, we must go back to our Father. Right. But also the message, I think that's equally important, is also for us as well. That when we do find our way out of God's kingdom into pig pens and started eating pig food and all of those things, getting tapeworms and all of those nice, wonderful things associated with pig farming. Guess what? And say, I must go back home. There's a father who's waiting, always looking out, and say, where's my son? Where's my daughter? You see, every day the father went, just looking out. But it's very, very important. And when we are lost, and sometimes when we seem not to have any strength, and just say, Father, pick me up, carry me. I cannot walk, carry me. I'm too tired, carry me. I'm so hungry, I've got no energy. Carry me. And guess what? He will. He will. He will carry me. You see? Have you ever been in a position where you thought, oh, God, I can't deal with these situations anymore. Oh, I'm too tired. I can't deal with some of these people. Sometimes it's because of us, right? But like, I can't deal with this situation. You know, I can't deal with that. This is where we actually need to just say, God, Father, carry me. Guess what? He is gracious. He is gracious. He is gracious. That's what Bible says. When we are sinned, we come to the Lord. He is gracious to forgive our sins and iniquities. Verse 33 to verse 35. This is basically, Paul goes back to the Psalms and basically to exalt and bring a point about God's sovereignty, God's majesty. And I want us to read it. It says, oh, the depth of the riches and the wisdom and knowledge of God. It's a declaration. Oh! And the thing of one is, oh, like, oh! And this is where you are, you know, when you think of something so amazing, it's not, oh. It's more like, oh, wow, Jesus, unbelievable. You know, I teach my students, they say unbelievable. Don't go unbelievable. Come on, put some into it. unbelievable. Wow. Oh, this is the thing. This is how you must read it, really. Like, oh, the depth of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of God. This is so amazing. Right. And also how unsearchable his judgments and his paths beyond tracing out. I mean, it's just so unbelievable. You just cannot understand with that little small mind. You know, it's like me speaking to my son, who's 2, right? I say to him, sometimes I get that, Lord, and you say, and you can see, he said, moving eyes like, we're calculating, what should my response be? You know, even though he doesn't understand, he's just thinking, what is the correct response in this situation? And look at me for some like indication, okay, is a smiling, is a yes or no? It looks like me getting eyes going, is it searching for the right response because he does not understand anything. And that's basically how we're like, wait, what's going on? Wait, wow, ooh, wait, this is, did he just, wow, okay, wait, okay, I don't know what it's saying right now. Yeah, that's how it is, you know. And then he comes with rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions are questions that the answer is so obvious you don't need an answer for it. For example, who has known the mind of God? It's a rhetorical question. Who has? The answer is nobody. Right, that's the answer, but that's a rhetorical question. You actually don't need to answer that question. Usually for rhetorical questions, if you ask a rhetorical question, someone answers, you're thinking, stupid person. Right. So this is a rhetorical question. Nobody needs to answer this. Like, who has known the mind of God? Or who has been his counselor? We said, God, sit down. What are you thinking? You know, no one has ever done that. No one knows more than God. Right, so that's the beauty of rhetorical questions. Who's ever given to God that God should repay them? Who's so rich that said, okay, God, I'm going to lend you my money. Give it to me next week. Who has ever done that? Nobody. Right. So this is the whole talk. And why? Because he's using the declaration and rhetorical question to show that God is great. God is majestic. God is beautiful. God is awesome. You see, this is what he's doing. And then the last verse. For from whom? So from him and through him and for him are all things. Right. So from him, that means he's the creator. He brings everything. And everything is created also through him. He's the creator, but also through his word, everything was made. And of course it's what? For him. For who? For him. Not for me. Right? Not for you. That's why trying to ask God why it's a useless question. Because God does not owe anybody any explanation at all. None. You see? And this sort of is against many of the modern theology of the, you have a right to. No, we don't have a right to anything. Everything is for him, not for us. God created the world not for us, for him. That's it. You see, that's what I love Romans, because it puts everything in the right perspective. If people simply read the Bible, and many of these nonsense theologies will not exist. See, so from him and through him and for him are all things. And again, it says, to him be the glory forever. Amen. Beautiful, isn't it? The fact that God's grace is available for all. And so, yes, we should pray. Even when you pray for the salvation of all people, right, around the world, which also includes the Jewish people, that they will receive and accept the Messiah. But even for us, important lesson is that God's grace is there for us. It's available for us. And even when we move or divert away from God, it's there. It does not change. Like the Father's always waiting, like, come on. You see, sometimes I'll say to my son, Daddy, he goes, no. I'm waiting. No. Eventually, he'll give me a hug. But it's more like a hug, like, okay, whatever, just that. Look tap. Yeah, I'm fine. He'll say, be happy with this, nothing more. You know, you're lucky I gave you a hug. That's more like it. But that's the thing of we have a father who's like, come on. Sometimes we do it like, no, I'm busy right now. Give me a hug. I've been waiting for a hug for a long time. It's like, it's not for me, it's for you. You need it. Trust me, you need it. You see, because sometimes as parents, earthly parents, we want our kids to give us a hug because we need it. Well, we got the Father because one time it's like, my hug, the hug is not for me, it's for you. Trust me, you need it. The things in your life are so mean. You need a hug. You need comfort. You need strength. The only thing, just come to me. Yeah, well, I'd rather ask Joey right here. Joey knows everything. We go to Joey, we listen to Joey, we end up in jail. Because we listen to Joey. You see, that's the thing about, it's okay to ask people for help. But first place we should go to is our Father. Right? And yet He will bring even the right people to give us the right advice and the right